This is TWiT.
Things happened over in the Arch user repository, and I think people got. Well, give us the lowdown, Jeff. What happened?
Okay, so for Arch Linux users, the past couple of days have been unusually chaotic. So a large-scale malware incident hit the Arch user repositories, or people call them AUR, and it's a community-driven collection of software packages. Now, while the AUR is incredibly useful, it also has fewer safeguards than official repositories. Now, this incident that we're going to talk about exposed just how vulnerable it can be. So now, over the last few days, several Arch users noticed something suspicious. Multiple AUR packages have been quietly modified to include malware. Now, one early warning came from a report that the AUR package ALVR, now the from source version, not the official project, so just the source, had been compromised. The document talking about this states the ALVR package on the AUR has been orphaned and has fallen victim to an info stealer malware attack. This turned out to be only the beginning. Soon after, users discovered dozens of packages showing the same signs of tampering. Eventually, automated checks revealed over 400 compromised packages, all altered in nearly identical ways. Now, the attacker didn't hack the AUR itself. Instead, they abused a long-standing weakness. That weakness? Orphaned packages. So these are packages without an active maintainer. There are about 15,000 of them on the AUR. Anyone can adopt an orphan package instantly. No waiting period, no verification. Make an account, boom, adopt a package. So what happened is the attacker created many new accounts. And then they adopted large numbers of these abandoned packages with these new accounts. Now they added malicious code. And each compromised package included a new fake maintainer, a suspicious dependency, usually NPM, or later they switched over to BUN, B-U-N, a scripted installed a malware package called atomic-lockfile. And they did note all of these packages did the exact same thing, adding NPM and a post-install script. This malware, what does it do? It's an info stealer, meaning it tries to collect passwords, tokens, keys, other sensitive data. Even though hundreds of packages were compromised, most were obscure or unused. Arch explains, these are basically dead packages. This doesn't mean it isn't a big deal, but only around 300 users downloaded the malware before it was discovered. So that's the one happy part of this story, is that not a ton of people got affected by this. Now, there's posts about checking what AUR packages you have with Pacman-Q lowercase m, but there's some caveats with that. It shows packages not in the official repositories, not just from the AUR. So, for example, when I did it, I found 3 packages, but I can only think of one that I actually installed from the AUR. One's a printer driver, and I could see when it was compiled and installed with the command pacman-Q lowercase I and the package name. Now, for me, my driver was compiled about a year ago, so it was good. And I should say this malware just happened recently. So if you haven't updated, say in a week or two, you haven't, and they're not obscure, unmaintained items, you're probably fine. The other 2 were Heroic Games Launcher and Jack. Now, I bring this up because there's a ton of concern about these 2, and people are wondering how they got AUR packages on their machine when they didn't explicitly install them from the AUR. Now, the really short version on this, because I went down this rabbit hole too. The really short version of this is the Heroic Games Launcher is they have 2 versions, a binary and a non-binary. Because of issues with Electron, they removed the non-binary and left the binary version on the repos. Now, the Heroic Games Launcher is not an abandoned package in the AUR, and it's maintained, so it's not at risk. But if you're like me, I wanted to switch the official binary version on the repos. And to do that, just do a sudo space pacman space dash capital S small y small u space Heroic Games Launcher. And between each word, there's a dash. It will tell you there's a conflict, and if you want to replace the one without a .bin with the one that does, say yes, and it removes the one you have and installs the new one, the .bin, which is in the repository. So there's no need to uninstall and then go to reinstall, and just that one command, pacman will do all of it for you. The other program I have is Jack, and while it isn't from the AUR, they removed it from the repositories because it was replaced with Jack 2. Since they removed it, it doesn't show up in the official repositories, which then flags. So remember, the dash capital Q lowercase m doesn't show only AUR. It shows packages that it finds which are not in the official repositories. It doesn't tell you why, or, like in this case, it was just removed. It was never part of the AUR. So you can replace Jack, like I did, with the Heroic Games Launcher, and when it says there's a conflict, say yes. It's going to say, hey, you have Jack, but I have options of Jack 2 and some other stuff, but just Jack 2, and it takes care of it. So now when I do the pacman dash capital Q lowercase m, I get my one printer driver. Now I'm not worried about it because other than if I ever got an update for it, I would be really cautious since the printer's about 15 years old. And so I know there's no updates for it, or there shouldn't be. Like I said, it was compiled like about a year ago, and it's a pretty static piece of software. Bottom line, though, if you've not pulled anything from the AUR or updated from the AUR, you're very likely fine. Like I said, and when I say recently, like say in the past week, by the time you hear this. But what should you do now if you're one of the unlucky who downloaded a bad package? Rotate all passwords, replace all private keys, check your crypto wallets, review logs for specific suspicious activity, inspect system services for unknown entries. So if you are one of the 300. Now, right now, if you're not, avoid updating AUR packages for a few days, or at least until the Arch team confirms cleanup is complete. Always inspect package builds before installing. And this is a good practice even outside of emergencies. So when you look at the package builds, that's where like the maintainers changed, and they all have the same email address. It'll say, oh, so-and-so and this other person and a third person, but they all have the same email address. And they'll, normally when you see these and it has things being changed, it's lines with version numbers, and the version number is the only thing changing, for example. Just actually try to scan through them, and I know I do, just looking for anything that's kind of jumps out at you. Hey, all these maintainers changed. It seems a little odd. And they share an email. Or, it's adding a bunch of dependencies. Is that real or not? It might be worth just taking that couple minutes to do a little searching. Now, this incident wasn't a catastrophic supply chain attack, but it was a loud wake-up call. The AUR's openness is both its greatest strength and its biggest vulnerability. Now that attackers know this adoption loophole exists, it will likely be exploited again unless major changes are made. For now, stay cautious, avoid updating AUR packages blindly, and keep a look at it on official channels. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. It hasn't been decided yet. But take a look at the articles and video linked in the show notes for a lot more details. Other scripts you can use to help diagnose if you have an issue, links to the lists of packages which have been affected, because I think I said 400 or something. That number keeps growing. So as they're going through and finding, don't be surprised you hear this and you think, no, they found a lot more than that. It's because they're still combing through everything. They've got automated systems chewing through it. Like I said, I don't know what the AUR is going to do to prevent this from happening in the future, but I'm sure a lot of people are staying up late pondering that very question. So stay frosty and stay safe.
Yeah. So, I know we've said before, talking about AUR, that like these are packages from the community, not from maintainers. So, beware, your mileage may vary. But I think it was also always said with this asterisk of it's been fine up until now. Like it's probably fine. And, this is a reminder that sometimes those things that are probably fine, or they have been fine up until now,
are not fine.
It's not fine anymore. And, a theoretical problem given enough time will become a real one. I think that's sort of inevitable. That's sort of a continuation of not Moore's law. What's the other one? The if there's two ways, somebody will get it wrong.
Oh,
Murphy's law. Yeah, it's a continuation. It's an iteration on Murphy's law.
And Murphy was spot on every time.
And we had a question that says AOR does what? It's like a repository, only it's crowd sourced, and it's not
an Arch user repository.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's the users that do it, that put the code in. It's people like maybe me or Jonathan or Ken putting our own packages in, or we're taking existing packages and customizing them a bit to work on Arch. And there's no chain of trust. There's no major buddy checks on it. It's a little more Wild West than the official repositories. Because if we want to put something into the official repository, there's steps to go through, and there's checks, and you can't just submit something and it gets in the repository. There's a whole big process to do it. AUR, not so much.
Yeah,
but it does have some handy software sometimes.
Yeah, I kind of think that that question about AUR does what was specifically in response to AUR will let anyone pick up an orphaned package. I think that's probably, like in this particular case, that is that's the you call it a vulnerability if you want to. It's a vulnerability in the way that they handle this, because that means that if you have anyone that has one of these orphaned packages installed is absolutely at risk for this sort of an attack. Eli goes on to say it's surprised that they allow people to take over packages like this. Yes, I think it's one of those decisions that made sense at the time, but in retrospect was a terrible decision.
Well, and we have to remember this was created in a much more innocent time.
We can trust everybody.
Well, and before they've had packages taken over, but it's been more single or a couple. It hasn't been this automated. Just now, but I mean, with the AI tools, I know I said it, I'm sorry. But you can automate a lot of this stuff to where it can just crank things out versus the old ways is more onesie twosie. So you didn't have as
automated capture the orphans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Capture the orphans. If you enjoyed this clip, be sure to check out the Untitled Linux Show. You can find us in your favorite podcasting app or subscribe to our YouTube channel down in the links below. See you there.